What's going on, everyone? It's Corey Vanderplu at Corey Photo on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you very much for submitting your questions. If you did it just to win the contest, I'm going to be announcing the winners throughout this video. But let's skip all that and let's just jump right into it. I'm going to start with the YouTube questions first. We got Oso Jolylicious saying, "Hello Corey, it's exciting to know the Q&A is coming. My question is regarding taking photos of people that are close to you, family or friends. Any tips how to handle a photography session with someone you're personally close to? I find it so much more challenging." What a great question. One of the hardest people to photograph actually is my mother or my parents. They're incredibly difficult because all the little gimmicks and tricks that you try to put into that photo session, anything to try and break down that wall or try to get them to be putty in your hands is kind of lost. When I photograph my mom and my dad at my house, they can kind of see right through all that BS. And that's why it's such a fantastic exercise. And I really do recommend shooting people that are close to you, whether it's a mother, a brother, a father, anyone close to you, because you just have to treat those very challenging things as an exercise. And that's how you're going to grow as a photographer. That's how you're going to grow as a person. So I know it's challenging, but just do it more. Do it until it isn't challenging. And then by the time you get to a subject who's a stranger, you're going to find that it's much, much easier. Thanks for the question. Then we got Ketchman. "Hi Corey, I've always been passionate about photography, but I only recently started educating myself properly about this subject. Can you share some books a photographer must read?" Well, first of all, the #1 book you must read, especially if you're into fashion, is Appearances by Martin Harrison. It gives you the full history of fashion photography, how it started in Parisian clubs, the best photographers, the ones who innovated and moved and shook the times, cultural provocateurs. That's a great standard. And then you have to figure out who are your favorite photographers. Do you like shooting portraits? Then maybe do a William Eggleston. Do you like fashion? Maybe do a Helmut Newton. Do you like the mixture of sex, drugs, and rock and roll? Maybe you're going to go with a Bob Richardson. What you really got to do is figure out what you like to shoot and then find who did that the best and then go from there. The reason I like Appearances by Martin Harrison is because it's an encyclopedia. It's not just a photo book. It gives you a full history. It's my Bible. Next, we got Jonathan Palma. "Hey Corey, I recently became interested in shooting studio portraits, especially in medium format film. Do you work with or shoot film sometimes? If so, how does it impact your workflow in the studio and post-production? Thank you. Your content helps a lot." Thanks for the question, Jonathan. This is actually a great question. My photography mentor was actually a film photographer, so it impacted the workflow incredibly. For instance, when I shoot digitally or when anyone shoots digitally, you shoot it, you import it to your computer, and you edit it. But when you're shooting film, you shoot the film, you go develop it, which costs a lot of money. Then you get your contact sheets back, you scan in the contact sheets, maybe you do an edit to get it approved by the client approves, then you scan it in with the high-res neg, then you do the retouching. So there's like 7 added steps, but it's what gives your photographs that special look. If you take Platon, for example, he was my photography mentor, you can see his images just have this sharpness, this tactness that no other images have. And that is what you want to do if you want to separate your work. Shooting medium format is expensive and it's a dying art, but man, does it look nice. Kyle Skinner. "On a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you feel knowing yourself is to be able to connect with any subject? And if it's important to you, what shoot do you feel shows the best connection you've had someone with and why?" I mean, being comfortable in your own skin is definitely important, especially if you want to connect with someone. There's RuPaul always says, if you can't love yourself, how can you love someone else? That always burned into my head. So yes, it does help. He asked, "What shoot do I feel shows the best connection with someone and why?" And if you look at any photo I've taken with my wife, probably the person I've collaborated with most in my life, shout out to Erica, you'll see that these are some of the best photos I've ever taken in my life because A, I'm comfortable in my own skin, B, she's sure as hell comfortable in her own skin, and we're so comfortable together. It creates that instant synergy that I just can't get with anybody else. This one comes from Dan Hawken Photography. "Hello Corey, questions I've got moving into more commercial work is how do you approach personal and commercial work differently? How do you stay true to your artistic self while serving the client and providing them with what they're looking for the images? Love your videos, keep them coming." Thanks, Dan. Well, big difference between commercial photography and personal work is personal work. I'm shooting what I want to with no cooks in the kitchen. Commercial photography kind of has that group grope. You have the art directors, the client on set. Everyone wants to get their opinion, and it almost has to be this happy medium, this collaboration that everyone has to come together and have this selective one-way vision, which is and can be extremely difficult at sometimes, but this is what makes you great. I mean, me as a photographer, I consider myself pretty much just someone who's a professional troubleshooter. I'm constantly putting out fires. I constantly have issues with digital side of things, connecting with the subject. How do I make this work on set? It's always figuring out how to problem solve. So commercial work is really just problem solving. Now, if you're doing a ton of personal work and it's going very easily, then you got to start trying to challenge yourself. Bring in more teams, bring in more stylists, makeup artists, just more people that you can collaborate with, because that's going to make you a better commercial photographer. It's going to make you work well with teams. It's going to make you know how to see someone's point of view and find that happy medium. But the best thing is it's going to teach you how to talk. Being on set with some of the world's greatest photographers and seeing how they can talk, and when a client says they want one thing and then having them tell their side and getting the client to flip is a beautiful thing to see. And the only way you're going to get good at that is if you practice and shoot more. And the more you shoot with bigger teams, the better you'll be. MK Curves. If you want to shoot me an email, contact@CoreyVanderploeg.com, right over here. Shoot me an email. I'm going to shoot you a Google Chromebook. Thank you for your question, and thank you for watching. The next two giveaways will come on later in the video. So MK Curve says, yo Corey, over the years, what sort of changes have you seen happen in photography profession, good and bad? And what do you hope happens in the future? Well, what I see a lot of is a lot of saturation in the market. Everyone's kind of a photographer. Everyone can shoot. Everyone can digitally edit. Everyone can make and take great images. But I love that. All those people saturating the market. I feel like my work is so different and has such a different look that it actually elevates my work. And what I hope for in the future is something Nick Knight said, where we're on the cusp of some of the great living photographers that you've ever heard of, whether it's Helmut Newton, Annie Leibovitz, Platon, Richard Avedon, Mario Sorrenti. All of these guys are great, fantastic photographers, but we've really never seen that great photographer that's come from the internet, or how they've used that medium of the internet. And I think that's going to be the coolest, is who's going to be that first great photographer that's used the crypto space or the internet and really elevated to the top of the list. Because out of all those great photographers that I mentioned, there's maybe 100 of them. There's millions of people trying to be that great. And that brings me a lot of hope for the future, to see how they use the medium as their message. All right, Idili Herrera, apologize if I got the name wrong. Hi Corey, big fan of your work. My question is not photography related, but just wondering, what were you doing when you felt most passionate and alive? That's funny, because that is actually a photography question. Aside from, it's mostly shooting my wife, being on vacation, being able to travel. This photo that I have right here on my screen was one of the most fun I've ever had in my life. I am spending time with my wife, who I love very much, and I'm shooting great pictures, and we're collaborating together. And nothing makes me feel more connected with my wife when we're being creative and we're having fun and we're making something out of nothing. So thanks for the question. Alonzo Diaz, did you ever have a big break? Or do you think it was a series of small steps that led to this success? Well, yes, I've had both of those. I've busted my ass working and shooting non-stop for over a decade. But I'd say the big break that I've had was, I can think of two. One was being able to immigrate and leave Canada and work for Platon. That was crazy. That definitely shifted my life. I was able to live in New York, live in the mecca of photography. And I mean, that completely changed the contour of my life. Now I'm living in a different country. I'm working with the best photographer on the planet, and that only happened from this series of small steps of working my ass off, busting my ass, trying to work, trying to shoot more, trying to get spreads for magazines so I can work on my visa, all of those things. And then the second big break would have been these big ad jobs I got for Verizon. that really gives you a little bit of freedom when you're shooting these big commercial projects. And because I had those, the series of 10 specific shoots for Verizon, that's been able to allow me to just get more and more commercial work, whether it be pharma gigs or big budget productions. It's allowed me to travel, and it's allowed me to have the freedom to create these YouTube videos and shoot what I would love to shoot. Thanks for the question. Christopher Henson, what's something that always manages to inspire your creativity? Honestly, it's great photographs, great photographers, people that are doing it amazing. Sometimes I look at a photograph and it is so good that it makes my stomach hurt. And it's those images that make me want to go out and shoot and make me want to do better. I recently made these videos about the greatest photographers in the world, talking about wisdom, their approach, their origins, their mentors. And I really just took all of these interviews and chopped them up, which you guys will be seeing soon. I just dropped the one on wisdom, but there's going to be 8 more coming. And just reading through those, learning my history, learning how the greatest people did it before me, that really lights a fire under my ass to shoot great work and keep it going. He had a follow-up question saying, who's someone you're dreaming of working with or making a photo? I just want assignment work, whether it be for a magazine or something. I don't really have a specific person I'd love to shoot. Probably love to shoot someone like Wiz Khalifa. I'd love to smoke a joint with him on set. I'd love to work with like an old legend like Willie Nelson or Paul McCartney. Yeah, or I would love to be close to power. I would love to shoot a living president. I would love to shoot a world leader. I would love to shoot an activist like Greta Thunberg. I would love, movers and shakers. Like I said, cultural provocateurs. Those people interest me. This next question is from Jay Solanap. How can great narrative be achieved through photography and photo editing? That's very interesting. A great narrative can be achieved 2 ways, I think. The first way is having a really well thought out story, a well thought out pre-production plan and a plan of attack with your team. To really think of what the story is and how can you execute that. And then the second one is kind of photojournalist style, like my Congo images, where you're just in a space and you're a mirror and you're reflective. Another great guy who does that is William Eggleston. Only takes 1 photo at a time, but his narrative is so strong, his art is so strong. I would recommend checking him out. Photo editing, not so much. I mean, this is, again, just personal opinion. I think photo editing is more of polishing, getting rid of the things that you don't want in there, stripping it down to the core idea. Funny, now that I actually mentioned that, narrative can be done in photo editing. It's funny, that question just changed my perspective. I look at Platon, for example. He always talks about stripping it down to the core idea. If it doesn't need to be in there, take it away. And that can really hone your narrative. It can't invent it, but it can really hone it. And I think that's very interesting. Thanks for the question, Jay. Fantastic. All right, we got Pew Starcraft. Hey, I love your videos. Career related. During my free time, I love organizing photo shoots. I gather a team with a model, photographer, makeup artist, hair, in a great location. I would love to make it my job. I'm a banker now. But I cannot because either the brands, I don't have the budget, like not even 100 euros, or they just trust me because I am no one in the industry. I applied to work at agencies submitting my work, but I didn't even get a reply. I'm 35, not a talented photographer, but I'm good at organizing photo shoot. Any advices? I'm also from Belgium, a tiny market with the highest corporate tax in the world, which doesn't help. I know it sounds like you have a lot of hurdles above you, but 2 things come to mind. One is what Oprah said. I know that's pretty cheesy to bring up, but she said, do what fulfills you, the rest will come. If you truly love to do this, then do it. Just start small. You're not just going to start getting repped by an agency right off the bat. You really do have to put in the work. And it doesn't matter that you're 35. My first photography mentor, Steve Carty, told me that if I wanted to be a photographer full-time, I have to quit everything. Stop what I'm doing and put everything, full force in photography. And that's going to light the fire under your ass to keep it going, to keep it moving, to keep it pushing. Now, I get that you're a banker and you have a career, but you really gotta, there's really no way you can spend a 9 to 5 working as a banker and then try to be a successful photographer in your spare time. Now what you can do is you can work and shoot as much as you can to build a small portfolio, but you use that portfolio to work with better artists, better stylists, better models. Slowly elevate that work, but eventually you're gonna have to cut that banker job off. It's gonna take a very rare, special individual to be able to do both at the same time, and you're not gonna get any sleep. And you're gonna be busting your ass in the evenings, you're gonna be busting your ass on the weekends. But again, you just have to do it more and more. If you say you're not a talented photographer, but you love organizing shoots, then try to mentor with a great producer, someone who works on a lot of photo shoots. Be a production assistant. They can make good money, teach you the in and outs, and then start producing your own jobs. Find your own photographers that you like. Find your own talented crew. Create your own roster. Create your own thing. Create your own side business where you're producing photo shoots. You just really have to find what works for you by doing it, trial and error, over and over again, and then you see what floats to the top. What photo are you proudest of making and why? Christopher Henson, another great question. My favorite photo I've already shown you is right here. It's of my wife. It broke the internet when I posted it to Reddit. It's my most viewed video on YouTube. I'm super proud of it. But I don't cling on to it. Once it's done, I kind of just throw it away and I try to make it the next. But it is one of my favorites. There's a reason why it's my background on my phone. You know, it's a perfect image. It's the combination of planning and pre-production and divine accidents, the divinity coming in, the muse coming towards me, and being able to be in the moment and capture that. Thanks, Christopher. Alejo.ph. What lens do you normally use for your photos? Also, thanks for YouTube vids. Well, thank you for the question. Well, my favorite lenses are prime lenses. Right here we got a 50mm 1.2 lens, and right here we got a 24mm 1.4. Those are really my go-tos. On all my close-up portrait stuff, I use a 135 2.0 L series. Everything's L series. I love that sharp, that tactness. So pretty much everything you see, if it's just like this, just a close-up portrait, that's a 135. I love it. I have it on a locked-off lens, a monopod. I'm really close. Try to get as close as I can to get all that rich detail. And then everything else that's kind of wider is the 50 or the 24. But I really stick to those three. I have a kit lens. It's a zoom lens. I use it kind of for scouting. But really just those primes. Give me the primes. What's the most difficult photo you've ever made? I do a lot of stuff for Apple stores. Bam, 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 bam. And these were difficult. These were extremely hard. The retouching alone is taking 3 days. It's all HDR and getting rid of all of these. Like, look at this before and after. On, off, on, off. Like, the retouch image there is insane. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Purely technical, and you're dealing with a tough client like Apple, and they're not easy. But it looks cool. Thanks for the question by Christopher. All right, Sophie Mellendoff Photography. Reach out to contact@coreyvanderploeg.com. I'm going to send you a free print of your choice. Thanks for the question. How do you see the photo industry? Is it a lot of hierarchy, and what can we do about it? It's total hierarchy. It's all about, that old saying is, it's not what you know, it's who you know, is 100% true. Some of my biggest jobs that I've gotten are because of who I know, not because of my photography talent. The only way you can get into that is by networking, knowing the right people. And it's totally a cool person click. And what can we do about it? You can either be in or in the way. So usually what most people say, and that's very disheartening. But that's what's so cool about social media these days, is it's totally changing that narrative. If you just create your own work, you get a big social media following, you skip all of that. I know it's not the most ideal, but unfortunately, it's a silly boys club, and I'm still, even on the outside of it looking in, I'm trying my hardest to get into it. Thanks for the question. Deeks9, I'm going to give you a photo too. Just reach out to contact@CoreyVanderploeg, and I will send you a print of your choice. Aside from your camera and lenses, what's one piece of gear you can't live without? One piece of gear I can't live without, and why? Well, one thing is my watch. Love my watch. Tells me what to do. I hate pulling my phone out on set. I hate going like this and looking at my phone. Much rather just peek at it. I love it. It looks nice. It's gold. And it makes me feel good when I put it on, but usually when it's on, I know I'm shooting. But again, I know something stupid and silly, but I really do just hate looking at my phone when I'm working. So, have to go with the old watch. Other than that, it'd be camera and lenses. Or deodorant stick. All right, Josh Eno. Any tips for someone getting into astrophotography? What equipment is essential for night photography? Now, I'm not too keen on night photography, not because I don't like it, but it's a very technical craft. You need a great tripod, you need a great camera that can do long exposures. I don't really know what kind of lenses you need, but you need to be outside of the city too, where there's a lot of light pollution. I just know it's very technical. You almost have to be a nerd like me, but on the even more gear side of things. And yeah, you just gotta buckle in for the technical side of it and have a fantastic tripod. I feel like the bigger and heavier a tripod is, the better it's gonna be. But then again, just crush out some YouTube videos. All right, light hour. What's a struggle that you had that makes you laugh when you remember? All right, this would probably be my first photo shoots with a model. I remember maybe the first 3 I had when I was assisting Steve Carty. I would shoot once or twice or even 3 times, and I'd show him the photos to kind of get his approval, and he told me they were bad. He's like, these are not good. Do it again. And my God, what a struggle that was. Just I couldn't grasp it. I'm trying to do all the same things that they did or that he did and the other people I shared a studio with, and those photos were coming out great, but what was I doing wrong? That constant struggle. The lighting was bad. I didn't know how to direct. But then again, on that 3rd shoot, I showed him and he said, these are great. Now you're on your way. And I remember that struggle being so difficult because those 3 shoots probably lasted 2 weeks total. And I remember those 2 weeks just being so defeated and not giving up. But hearing him talk and kind of guide me through it was fantastic. All right, Angela Ramon photo. What gives purpose to an image? Thank you, Corey. You're a true inspiration. Well, that's way too kind, but I really do appreciate it. And what gives purpose to a photo is, wow, it's a really deep, prophetic question. What does give purpose to a photo? I think it's the resonating feeling that you get when you look at a photo. There's always just something that is untangible that just clicks. Why do you gravitate towards a photo? Is it how they look in the eyes? Is it the narrative that says it's the picture is worth 1,000 words is so relevant in this question because it really can mean anything. And I think if I have to say it in kind of a lazy cop-out is it's something I can't describe. It's an intangible thing that happens inside of you. It's Marina Abramovich said, you always have to listen to your stomach, everything in the stomach. And I know when you look at a good photo, that happens there. And I don't know what it is, but everyone can agree on most great photos, iconic photos. Everyone can say, yeah, that's great. And it all happens to do with emotion. And I can't really explain emotions. That's why I'm a photographer. Thanks for the question. What's the biggest mistake you see in the way amateurs take photos? That's a fantastic question. Well, first of all, they don't take enough. They fixate on one idea or one shoot, and they're just not shooting enough. There's an old story about a potter teaching a class, and he had one half of the class make one perfect pot and the other half of the class make as many as they could. And when it came day to be graded, all of these one pots looked kind of janky and silly, but all of the pots that people had to make a lot of, they were coming in with perfect pots because they just kept making them and making them and making them. And that repetition is what's going to make you good. And I think that's what every amateur photographer needs to do. Just shoot more, fail, learn, do it again. Shoot, fail, learn, do it again. Repeat that over and over and over and over and over again. All right, next question. Josh Shrum, what's the best time of day to shoot a photo? Well, if you're in a studio, it doesn't matter. And if you're shooting outside, it's going to be magic hour, when the sun rises or when the sun sets. One of my favorite photos ever, right here, was of my wife, 5 a.m. in the morning on a Florida beach. And You know, these colors aren't invented. This is the sky. This is the beauty that was given to me in the morning, and I think those are the best times to shoot. Thanks, Josh Shrum. If you want a free NFT that comes with a print, reach out to contact@coreyvanderpool.com and I'll shoot you your NFT. Thank you very much for the question. How to not repeat what other people are shooting and be yourself in photography by Kerman Photo. Thank you very much for the question. I mean, learning to be yourself can take a long time and can be a long road. It's just about connecting with yourself. I mean, meditation's a big one for me. I love meditating. I love meditating on ideas, specific themes, and that really puts you in touch with yourself. But if you just listen to yourself and try not to mimic what other people do, that's going to be the easiest way to do it. I mean, this is such a loaded question. I feel like I could talk for 40 minutes just on this alone. How do you be yourself? But really all you can do is know what your tastes are. Write a lot of things down, journal. What do I like? What do I think works in these photos? What do I like about this? And the more you're in touch with yourself and the more you're thinking about these things, the more in tune you'll be with how you're feeling and what you feel that day. And that's really what you're gonna have to do. It's gonna take small increment steps until you're your true authentic self. But I think every artist struggles with this question, so thank you for bringing it up. Diana Catoenga, what's the best ways to get creative inspiration and what inspires you lately? Like I said earlier, learning my history, learning who did it the best before me, learning who changed the photography game, listening to old interviews of photographers and listening about their wisdom, their creativity, their approach to the craft. That really gets me fired up. Listening to any of Platon's lectures on YouTube or his Netflix special, that shit fires me up. I mean, I love image making. I love hearing the thought process of the greats, and that really gets me going. So thank you for the question. Callme.lix, how do you go about setting up shoots? Email, DM, what's the best way in your opinion? I don't really like to DM. I don't think that's a very professional way to do it. I mean, you can do it, but I always like using model agencies, and I just love coming up with creative ideas. I shoot a lot of friends of friends. Luckily, I have a circle of cool people where my wife is a model, so I can shoot some of her friends who are also models. I shoot a lot of artists. Actually, so mostly email. Like I said, I will try to set up a shoot with an artist by using their management company, or usually they'll have an email in their Instagram, and that's usually how I go about it. But it always follows up with a mood board, an idea, and something to get them hooked. And from there, then we can start planning. Straight lines, round shapes asks, who are your biggest influence beside Platon? Well played, well played. And your favorite photographers at the moment? My biggest influences are probably Bob Richardson and Platon. I love the edgy rock and roll kind of vibe that Bob Richardson brings to the table, and I love the clean crispness of Platon. I was a fan of his before I actually got to assist him, so that's very lucky. Another one of my favorites is a guy named Jimmy Marble. His perspective and his composition and his colors and his use of space and all that kind of stuff is just crazy. So check him out. Yeah, he's been killing it these days. Do you always have a camera with you? Well, I kind of do because of my phone, and I take a lot of mental pictures, but I do. Most of the time, most of the time I travel around with this Leica Mini Lux. I love shooting 35 mil. It's the way I do a lot of personal work. A lot of my photos are actually 35 mil. Not so much on Instagram, but I love this. Vacations, going out with friends. I always take this with me. Backup, iPhone. The best camera is the one that you have with you, and I truly believe that. What do you think about film photography? How do you edit film scans? Like I said, I already kind of touched on this question earlier. Go back to this time code. Boop. The workflow is ridiculous. but man, it really separates you from other photographers. The look and the style of it, you just can't mimic that with digital. What are things outside of photography that give you inspiration for your photos? Me, it's just hanging out with people. I love networking. I love being in a dingy bar and talking to strangers. I love walking around New York City. New York City is probably the craziest inspiration for photos. If you're bored in New York City, that's a you problem, because you can walk around this city and be inspired nonstop forever. Just people. There's so many unique people. There's so many unique stories. That is what gets me going. And yeah, just connecting with people. Willie Millar, how would you approach asking to photograph an event with little professional expertise? The first thing I would do is say, let me do it for free. Hey, I'll shoot your event for free. And then once you get that under your belt, now you have professional expertise. And now you can go ask for to shoot an event. And you have photos of an event you've already shot, and now you can start charging. So get out there. The amount of times I shot for free, I used to shoot in a club, a crappy little club in Burlington, Ontario, for a stupid little company called Vanity Life Entertainment. And I shot in clubs just so I could get used to my camera, get used to shooting, and man, the photos were brutal, but I did it for free. And then I started charging for events. And then I got into weddings, and then I graduated high school, and then I did other things. So it all started from working for free. You got to do it sometimes. What makes a good photography mentor? A good photography mentor is someone you can learn from, and that's really all you need. I firmly believe you need 3 people in your life if you're a photographer. You need someone you can teach that is a little bit below you, that you can spit your wisdom to. You need someone on your level that you can share ideas with, a peer, and you need someone you can learn from. If you have those 3 people in your life, then you're going to be doing all right. Il Deli. What's the one thing you wish you knew when you started taking photos? That you're going to get better. When I first started, my photos were not good, and I just progressively got better. If I would have known that if I just put the work in and keep shooting, that I'm going to get better no matter what, as long as I put the time in, that would have alleviated a lot of stress and a lot of uncertainty in my life. So, keep going. Antoine Mercer Photography. How do you keep creativity in your workflow? I've kind of learned to keep my workflow the same and keep it tight, and then that way I can let that image do all of the creative heavy lifting. My workflow is pretty simple, down to the point. You can see by checking out all of my YouTube videos. It's pretty systematic. I don't feel like it's not creative, but I do love doing the same thing over and over and over again to just hone it and get it better and get it better and get it better. So thanks, Antoine Mercer. Martin Hoyer. How does one decide or find their photographic niche? Or is diversity in your portfolio just as good? I mean, it depends. I'm going to bring Platon up again. He doesn't have too much diversity in his portfolio, but he nails it hard every single time. But I do love a diverse portfolio. It really depends on who you are. If you think that you have this style and this is you, then push for it. If you really like diversity in your portfolio, push for it. I don't think you should have these preconceived notions on what my portfolio should look like. I think you just have to be you, be authentic to yourself, and let that work just kind of organically happen. Ride the wave. All right, Le Juenesis. Sorry for the butcher of the name. Le Juenesis said, what inspires you the most when choosing subjects for portraits? Again, all in the stomach. Everything in the stomach. But what really inspires me is attitude, emotion, authenticity. There's something about authenticity that you can't mimic. When this person just has that thing, that's something that grips you. A lot of people are obsessed with power. Power is a really good one. World leaders, celebrities. But I like the authenticity. I like shooting someone who's completely authentic to themselves, because everyone can see that through a single frame, through 125th of a second. Everyone can see how authentic that person is, and that really inspires me. AFC Jonas, what's your workflow for billboard pictures in editing? It's the same. If it's going on social media, if it's going on a billboard, it's always the same. One added step I like to do, which probably hasn't been shown too much in my YouTube videos, is I love to print my photos. There's thousands of lines of detail in your computer, but when you print your photo, that kind of takes some small little things and condenses it down to only hundreds of lines of data, and you just see things in a print that you don't see in the digital side of things on the screen. So printing in your workflow will let you see something that you might have missed on the computer, and that's huge for me. Jack Kiki, what's it like being the most handsome photographer in New York City? What's your system for charging clients? That's an enormous question, which I think I'm going to do a video on later. Thank you for that. I'm going to screen cap this right now so I remember. Alex Crawfo. I just did a video on knowing when to charge. Check that out right here. But the system for me, to put it lightly, is I want to find out what your budget is so I can take all of it. If you do a quote for a job and the client says, this is great, but can you knock it down $500? That's a perfect quote because you're squeezing all the money out of them. The first thing I always ask is, what's your budget? If you have the ability to get a friend to act as your business manager and get them to talk money instead of the artist doing it, that also helps too. But great question. I'm going to do a video on this. Thanks, Alex Crawfo. Daniel K. Shots. Do you prefer natural or flashlight? Natural light, 100%, no questions asked. Natural light. Most of my work's natural light anyways. I'm being naturally lit right now. Do you have any follow-up questions to your nude photography video? That nude photography video is how to approach the topic of nude photography, to do it in a professional way. No follow-up suggestions. I mean, that video pretty much has everything you need in it. Check it out. Corey, do you ever shoot on film? Do you have any suggestions for starting? Yeah, I shoot a lot of 35 mil. I shoot a lot of 120. Get a point and shoot, 35 mil. Mess around with it. Then you can try to mess around with one of these. This is a very basic, couple $100 film camera, but it gives you all of the manual settings, so you're in full control, fully manual. That's going to make you be a good film shooter. Knowing how to do spotlight readings, knowing how to figure out what this room is. Like, what are we right now? A 2.8 at 125th of a second ISO 400. Those are good skills to have, and you won't know unless you shoot and by trial and error. All right, Alex.always. Do you ever feel imposter syndrome? How do you overcome it? I always feel imposter syndrome. When I'm on a big set, when I have great shoots, I always feel it. I mean, it's totally natural. How do I overcome it? Accept it. I don't think I overcome it, to be honest. I still get it all the time. But just know that some of the most important people on the planet have this imposter syndrome. Some of the biggest celebrities, some of the biggest world leaders have it. So you're not alone. Should I switch to a mirrorless camera from DSLR? I mean, that's a technical gear question. I have a video called Your Camera Doesn't Matter, and I truly believe that. I'm not a gear junkie, although I do love specific cameras, but I don't think you should switch just for the sake of switching. I love DSLRs. Thank you for the question, Photo Gallagher. 21, met you at Finelli's Cafe in New York City. Thanks for the question. Zach Taylor, what's your favorite lighting technique for editorial studio portraits? Mine is a huge window. If you have access to a 17-foot by 14-foot window, use that. Lots of V-flats. It's my favorite. How long did it take you to develop your personal editing style? Also from Zach Taylor. It took me years. Years. Just by doing it and doing it and doing it. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Constantly over time. Years and years and years. Cripes. But I love it. And I love doing it that way. And if you want to learn how to do it the way I do, I mean, if you just check out my YouTube videos, you can edit just like me. DPO photos. What was the first photo you were proud of? Here it is. I love this photo. I was doing a short film on the beach for a magazine called Filler Magazine in Toronto, an online magazine, and I was able to snap this photo when it was done, and it's still in my portfolio, and this was a divine accident, and it's the first photo that I could kind of beat my chest at how proud I was. Thanks for the question, DPO.photos. R. Lee Shutter asked, do you offer mentoring sessions? I don't, but I don't mind doing it. My mentoring is kind of through these YouTube videos. If you're interested in doing some online mentoring, reach out to contact@coreyvanderploeg.com and maybe we can talk. 8TWO4, is your work evolving? If so, how? And what could be improved? I think my work's always evolving. Everyone as an artist is evolving. It's impossible to stay stagnant. And what could be improved? Man, there's endless things that can be improved. It's almost like it's too hard of a question to ask. I can find better subjects. I can be better at editing. I can get better at having sharper photos. Like, man, every single aspect can be improved. If you can think about it, it can be improved. Thanks for the question. Same thing by 8TWO4. What advice would you give yourself if you could talk to yourself at the beginning of your career? I kind of said this already. Just put the work in. You're going to get better. Put the work in. If you put in the hours and practice really hard, you're going to get better. And I would have loved to have known that. Cello the photo guy. What's more important, mentorship or self-exploration, and why? Whoa, that's a loaded question. What's more important, mentorship or self-exploration? It really depends who you are. For me, mentorship. I think learning to run a photography business at the highest possible level, learning how to deal with clients like a high-end photographer would do is completely invaluable. And once you get that stuff down, then you can self-explore. But I think mentorship's very important. Rosaria, what was your breakthrough in color grading? Breakthrough in color grading was really stripping it down to simplicity. I know some of my retouching videos have been criticized by other retouchers, but I learned from Platon's retoucher, and he told me just to keep it simple, a couple set lines of layers, and keeping it very simple. Very simple. I mean, there's a whole sticky situation when you get into color matching photos and getting skin tones to match if you have a group of 8 images. But in terms of just color grading, my major breakthrough was learning that simplicity is key. And simplicity is the best method. Kenny McLeish, how do you get natural looking smile in your shots? That's a great question. I do a lot of things when I shoot where I get someone to stay very simple and then get them to go very bright and then get them to come down. And you gotta get them in that accident moment. I'm shooting a lot. So if I'm constantly getting them to go up and down like a roller coaster, very excited, very down, very excited, very down, you're gonna get some gold moments in those in-between moments. So have fun with it. Get very expressive and try to catch those off moments because those are usually the best ones. Leon J. Photography. Is it possible to work for you as an assistant for a while? Sure thing. Contact@coreyvanderploeg.com. Hit me up. Your signature of crisp/clarity look, stumbled upon or intentional? Definitely stumbled upon. Definitely divine accident. Definitely just repetition. Definitely just something that organically happens from doing it over and over and over and over again. Thanks for the question. Zeet Baby. Stained by Cube. My photos are always coming out blocky after I use your workflow. Could it be my camera quality or me? Well, what I've been doing for years and years and years, and if you're just trying to mimic what I'm doing on YouTube, it might come off a bit clunky. You might be doing something a little too much. You might be using too much contrast, and your images have to kind of be set for that. You need kind of really flat images to use my workflow, because when you start cranking it with contrast, it really makes every single impurity, every little blemish just kind of leap to the front. My photo editing style is not forgiving. If you're editing with my style, you need to have some great skin retouching. You need to have some very clean images because my editing style is not forgiving. And that's why it looks cool, because it has this polished look and it also is very clean. So it's going to take some practice. Thanks, Stained by Cube. Augustini.co, what are the must-haves of a successful photography pitch? Easy, an idea. As long as you have a strong idea and you have the ability to convey that strong idea through images or drawings, that's really what's going to get you through any photography pitch. Anu Anuskarana Bat. Sorry again if I'm botching your name. Congratulations. Reach out to me if you want a free print. Her question is, what's a good photo? I mean, one of mine. No, I'm just kidding. A good photo is something that resonates with you. It's subjective, but if you like it and you feel it in your stomach, then that's a great photo. All right, Dwight James III. What's your process for printing a photo book? No real process. I have it down to photoshopping, managing the colors, and I calibrate my monitor a lot. And if the colors look the same as they do on my screen, then I'm happy. Not too much of a process. I just print a lot. I use a Canon Pro Series printer, and they are beautiful. GC Inside. How do you negotiate for a fair rate in a forever shrinking budget market? Again, you gotta stick to your guns. Hopefully you get to the point where you're getting so busy that you can turn down work and say no. I've gotten some of my biggest jobs when I turn them down, and instead of turning down, I just offer an obscene quote, and sometimes that goes through. But that's not the case for everyone. I always try to say, what's your budget? Your budget's $5,000, your budget's $500, I'm taking it all. And that's really the way you have to work. It is an ever-shrinking budget market, but it's very simple. If someone reaches out for a job, quote them what you think is fair. Are you happy getting this number? And if you are, quote that. If they don't like it, then F off. I mean, you have to do what is fair to you. You can't just do a job because it's a little bit of money. Stay true to your guns. That's really my suggestion. B._authentic. Reach out to me. I'm going to send you a print. contact@CoreyVanderPloeg.com. Thank you for your question. How long did it take you to develop your photographic style? 15 years. I probably started falling into it in, say, 2016, 2017. I was still overproducing. I mean, over-processing. And when I learned to kind of dial it back and make it look a little bit more natural, which only happened a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, that's really when it started to happen. But it took a good decade. All right, Darren Hill 24. Where do you find inspo for your shoots and maintain consistent style in different scenario? My inspiration comes from the historic people that have done it before me, the world's greatest. And the way I maintain a consistent style is, again, just doing it over and over again, just constantly shooting. It's a never-ending process, but you're going to get really good if you keep doing it. Are mobile phones a curse or a blessing for the art of photography? I think they're a blessing. Everyone can shoot great photos. I don't think people taking great photos on your iPhone should make you feel any worse for taking photos, so I think it's a total blessing. Thanks, Flow.Rider. Flow.RDR. FFEJ_90. You can only own one camera. Which one do you choose? I choose a Leica M6 with a 50mm lens. That thing is, and it's 20 years old and it's still perfect. It still looks amazing. Soy El Keko. What's the camera that started it all for you? The Canon Rebel Ti. Gross little silver thing, but an amazing camera. Do I have it up here? Yeah, the digital Rebel Ti. Probably $1,000 camera back in 2004. It was like 3 megapixels. That's the one that did it. Shout out to Mark Radford for getting me that camera. What's your dream photography gig? Probably a 20-day ad job shooting for Nike in Iceland. That sounds fun. Big money, too. Thanks, Juan Rosar. How amazing of a mentor was Platon? Incredible. Just watched the Netflix documentary, Abstract the Art of Design with Platon. You can see how crazy his life is, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. Now I'm making documentary films with him. So that's cool. Almost done. Becca Rona, want to take a selfie with me? Yes, I do. Randall VB21, one of the biggest supporters of my channel. Thank you very much, Randall. What are some of your photography goals for the rest of the year in 2023? Me, I've been working on this documentary with Platon for so long, 2.5 years in post-production. It's one of the reasons my YouTube channel started to slip now. My biggest thing is just to get into full photography mode. shooting more, listening to my own advice, collaborating with cool artists, and traveling and shooting while I travel, hanging out with my wife and shooting her. Everything shooting. Shoot, 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 shoot. Dan Whitehead Photo, what inspires you when you're creating something new? Again, broken record, but what inspires me the most is the idea, the thrill, the chase of finding what that photo is going to be. And yeah, learning that someone before me has done it infinitely better, and me trying to chase that to be on their level keeps me inspired constantly. Thank you guys for listening. This was a long video. Feel free to drop any comments. If you don't like what I'm saying or you like what I'm saying, comment below. I really appreciate you guys watching my content. It means the world to me. If I can share any of my knowledge and ability, I will. I'd like to be an open book. Just talk to me more. Leave comments, email me. I'm here for you guys. So thank you very much. My name's Corey Vanderplu at Corey Photo on Twitter and Instagram. Check me out. Happy shooting.